Well, if you thought that tie-dye was just for t-shirts, you're wrong, because it's for scrapbook pages too. And Cano Murillo is here with a great idea on how to do that. So Kathy, that's your fabulous layout, and I see it's got a tie-dye background, right?
Yes, it does. I love tie-dye. But you know, it's not always just for wearing. You could also incorporate it into your art and scrapbook projects.
Now, you've promised me that this is easy, even though it looks really hard. So you're going to talk us through that whole tie-dye process.
Okay, so the super easy way is to cut up an old tie-dye shirt that you have. But
then you don't actually have to do any tie-dye. I like that one.
But I like to start from scratch. So I just took regular cotton fabric and I just used different ways. I used a tie-dye kit. It comes with all the different colors, the rubber bands, the gloves.
And I see that this is basically a scrap from the version you have on your page. Yes. And you said there was a very particular way that you made that.
Yes, there's so many different ways to apply it. That one, I just dipped a wide soft brush in water and I just painted it on. This one, I folded up the fabric and I dipped it in the dye. This is a bullseye, like old school, you know, tie-dye. This one is fun because I tied all these little sections with the rubber bands and I used different colors on the back and on the front. And then you see those circles right there?
Yeah, I was wondering how you did those with the tie-dye.
Well, that is fabric marker. And so it's just another way to add.
Did you do that before or after you tie-dyed?
You know, I did it before, and then I wasn't sure I liked how it looks. I thought, I'm just going to tie-dye this. But after I finished the tie-dye, I'm like, I should have just covered the whole thing in marker before I tie it, because I really like the look of it.
So that's interesting. You can do it before or after, and obviously because it's a fabric marker, it's not going to wash out through the whole process.
And so here's one that I did just to show you.
Still has the rubber band indentations on it.
Yes, it does. And my favorite part of tie-dye is the big reveal. So it's fun because you can forget what pattern you tied and see the different looks that come out.
That's really neat, but it seems a little flimsy for a scrapbook page, I gotta tell you.
Now I'll show you how to get it onto your scrapbook page.
Okay.
So the trick that I did, I used some double-sided fabric adhesive.
Okay.
So here's my cardstock. I cut the fabric adhesive to fit the same size.
So is it like a fusible web or something like that?
Yes, it's like fusible webbing.
I see.
Exactly.
So use it in quilting, find at your local quilting shop or something like that. Okay.
And I just ironed it onto the scrapbook paper.
When you iron on paper, are there any rules about like heat setting? Do you have to think about any of that kind of stuff?
No, I just did it on dry, no steam.
That's
and
on
high, right. And so after you have it ironed on, let it cool, and then just peel off
that paper backing.
And now all that adhesive is here on your cardstock.
But it's not tacky. Like this is not adhesive like we're used to in scrapbooking necessarily.
Right.
So how do I basically get anything to attach to this?
Okay, so next what we do is you take your fabric.
Right, I have my lovely fabric here.
Okay, so I would first iron that. So say we'll take this one.
Okay. Oh, you don't want to put this totally wrinkled fabric
well,
onto your
that could
page.
be another technique, huh? And so I iron this out, like after you finish your tie-dye, wash it, dry it, iron it, and then put this on your ironing board, whatever angle that you want.
Does it matter which side you iron from? Meaning, do I have to iron on the fabric side, or could I put this down and put the paper on top of it and iron from the back side, or does it matter? It
doesn't matter. Oh, okay. It really doesn't matter. I usually do it fabric side on top. And once it's all sealed down, if you want, you can...
Sealed on meaning that you've ironed it
and the edges are nice and sealed.
Okay.
And if you want, you can flip it over and iron the back side as well. The tip about ironing the back side, though, is sometimes it could wrinkle a little bit. Oh. So that's why I pretty much stick to the front. And it goes on with this thin fabric. It's just perfect.
Wow, awesome. And then you have, how do you get to this stage?
Well, this is after I cut the edges off, and this is what it looks like. So now I have this really fun fabric-lined piece of scrapbook paper.
It's cool. It's totally unique, and you could do this with tie-dye, but you could also do it with printed fabric. You could do it with all sorts of stuff.
I'm like a crafty hoarder where everything I save, and I'm like, I could iron that onto my scrapbook paper. So
it's true. I'm even thinking like something sentimental for scrapbooking, like a favorite dress or anything like that. You could take a piece of it if you didn't want to throw it away, something that didn't fit anymore. You could use it. I have to ask you about the stitching that's here at the bottom. Did you do that, or was that already on there?
This was part of the I used a bandana, a cotton bandana, so that was already on there. If you want, you could stitch your fabric, like cut it, measure it, stitch it. You could even stitch it just like this through your machine. I just kind of leave the edges like this.
I like it. And I know that there's actually another step here. If we look back at your finished layout, you spray painted or stamped or something.
I can never stop at just one technique. I like to add lots of layers. So this page I did for my friends. We're called the Latina Blog Stars, and we do road trips. So I wanted to have a fun stencil that tied in with our group. So I drew this stencil. I just used black marker on copy paper. And now I'm going to scan it into my electric cutter here.
So we're just going to load the mat in there and then scan it in. And of course, if you didn't want to draw something, you could absolutely use
any kind of pattern, clip art, whatever you'd like. So here I'm going to scan.
Choose that middle thing, which is the scan to cut data. Press the start button, and the machine's going to do all the work for you, which is nice.
And the reason why I'm doing it this way is because I want to save this pattern in my machine so that I can use it again and again and again on whatever I want.
I like that because sometimes when I've cut paper stencils in the past, the problem is you do all that work and then it's maybe 1 or 2 uses as opposed to getting to use it a lot of times, which I really, really like. So you're just going to unload the mat while you're waiting for it to scan in, right? And then when you have your stencil, et cetera, is there any particular prep work we need to do in terms of preparing the fabric to take stenciling?
As long as it's nice and smooth. That was the whole key of ironing it. And plus, once you iron it to the cardstock, it makes it nice and smooth like this.
That's great, easy. And so now I see your stencil design right in there.
So I'm going to click this outside outline.
Cool.
And it's going to highlight the outside of everything. So it will only cut the outside areas, and I'm going to hit save.
And then you have the option of saving it into the machine, right? Or to an external USB, which always means that you can take it with you in your pocket wherever you go, which is kind of fun.
So
you're
I'm
going to save it into the machine. And then once it's in there, of course, as you said, like you can keep using it over and over and over again. And you just push the home button to go back to the beginning, and then we unload the mat and we're ready to cut. I will take that. Thank you so much.
So now I have my mat and I have my cardstock already ready to go.
And it's not any special paper, right? That's just 12 by 12 cardstock, easy enough.
I do so much painting that I just like to go with white cardstock. So many things you can do with it. So now I'm going to hit pattern. And I'm going to go to my saved, and I'm going to hit my machine, and there's my pattern.
There's your design, as promised, right in there. And of course, you could resize it if you wanted, do whatever you want with it, but I know you like it. You did it perfect the first time, and you like it just the way that it is. So
I'm going to hit that.
Go ahead and cut it. Now, you have one here that's actually already cut, so we're not even going to bother, you know, well, I mean, you can, but I'm just saying, since you have one that's already done, we can take a peek at that, which is really cool. In fact, you have 2. Does that mean I get to keep one?
Yes, you may have this one.
One for a friend. Thank you.
And so now what I did was I just used a fabric ink pad to add the stencil design to the fabric cardstock.
So do you use a tool to do that? Can you do a little bit of inking for us to show us how you do that?
And look, I brought one for you too, so we could both do it.
Super play. Okay.
So there's a lot of ways. You could use a spray.
Now, do you tape this down, or do you care about the wiggle factor?
What? Let's use some tape to
That is pretty green tape. Is it special tape in any way?
This is a low tack tape.
So that it's not going to ruin the paper when you pull it off.
And it will keep it in place while we add the
While we
fabric
actively ink?
Yes.
Okay, so you don't, do you use an applicator, or you're just saying that you're going direct?
I'm just going to go direct.
Am I going to ruin your layout if I do this? Is there anything about pressure I need to know about?
I just kind of rub it like this.
Oh, cool.
Because this is the effect I wanted. I didn't want it to be super wet. I didn't want it to be kind of hard, you know how thicker paint is. I just wanted just a light look on top of it. So that's why I'm using
ink pad.
Yes,
Very
I'm using
cool.
this fabric
so
ink
let's
pad.
pull this back just so we can see what we've done already and show off our awesomeness. I say our awesomeness, but it's really you. I actually love it like this. It looks like it's spray painted. It fades in and out. So cool.
Right.
Now I got to go back to my studio and start making things right away. Thank you, Kathy. This was fantastic.
Thank you so much.
And if I look at your finished page, I can see that, of course, Crafty Chica style, you have blinged it out with those shiny letters, pulled it all together, and I love the way the background looks.
Thank you.
So I hope that you'll bring some tie-dye into your pages and maybe a little bit of stenciling and lots of fun custom stuff to make it your work uniquely you.